Mic check 1 2. So I was wrong. I was wrong about the gameplay that comes out of the Capcom Fighting Collection 2. I honestly didn't think that the gameplay would be as good as it was, but it was actually pretty good. And what helps when playing games like this are controllers like the 8-bit Do gamepad. I've had this for a few years now, and this game is great. I think this is not that I think, I know that this is my favorite controller whenever I'm playing any retro style games on my Switch. And I usually pair it with either my Switch Lite or I'll pair it with my regular Switch. And this definitely helps with fighting games like Street Fighter Alpha 3, Plasma Sword. I would say that it's not as comfortable when it comes to a game like Power Stone. I think that's probably because I'm more used to just playing Power Stone on a Sega Dreamcast controller, even though the Dreamcast controller is probably one of the most uncomfortable controllers known to man. But nonetheless, it's kind of like muscle memory when it comes to playing some of those old school games. So overall, though, I gotta admit the gameplay in the Capcom Fighting Collection 2 was better than I thought, and I'm glad that I took it out and got to relive some of those classic games from the late 90s, early 2000s. So really good stuff there. Still bummed that I didn't get Rival Schools. Still bummed about a few games that we didn't get. But I'm hoping, as someone mentioned, there's hope that Capcom will do something where they release like Mega Man Legends 1 and 2, along with the Misadventures of Tron Bonne. Perhaps they'll add Rival Schools to that. Maybe they'll add a few other games to that. So we'll see if they do something like that. I do feel like a Mega Man Legends type of, compilation cart is coming at some point. Maybe they'll include like the Mega Man X RPGs, like Mega Man X Command Mission. And I think that would be a good little mashup. Mega Man Legends 1, Mega Man Legends 2, Misadventures of Trombone, and then Mega Man X Command Mission. I think that would be a good little grouping of games, and maybe they could tack on a couple other Capcom games to that. So Capcom, keep them coming. I'm definitely pleased with what we got here. Now, shifting topics here, one of the questions that I've gotten from subscribers of the channel is what the ratio is when it comes to the games that I'm ordering from GameStop's website. What ratio of the games are complete and what games are loose disc only? So I'm going to show you some of that here in a second. But I could say so far the ratio is low. It is pretty low. I would have to say that it's probably less than 10%. And I'm not going to show you all of the games that I picked up because a lot of them I've already returned to GameStop, the loose disc ones. But I am going to show you the games that I did keep that were complete. And then we'll talk about a really cool pickup that I ran into today when I went to my local GameStop. So we're going to move all of this to the side and we're going to take a look at some of these complete in box games. So the two complete in box games that I have, the first one is for the GameCube. Now, I picked up this copy of Batman Vengeance because back when I first got my GameCube in 2002, the first two games that I got for that console were Star Fox Adventures and then Batman Vengeance. Now, for those of you who grew up in the 90s, you'll remember that there were a few different Batman animated series. So you had the Batman, like the original Batman, the animated series that was out around the time of like the X-Men 97 series, or 1992 when the X-Men series came out. You had the original Batman, the animated series, and that one felt a little bit more mature. That was the Batman that still had the yellow bat signal on his chest, and he still had like the yellow utility belt. But then as you got closer to like the 2000 era, like the turn of the millennium, there was another Batman animated series where that Batman just had like a black and gray suit, and the bat signal was just black against his like gray leotard. And that was the series of Batman that they sometimes crossed over with Superman, the animated series at that time. And the main villains in that Superman animated series were like Metallo and Brainiac, and you kind of saw a lot of that. So this game, I think, follows the second iteration of the Batman animated series that came out on the WB. Now in New York, that would have been the WB 11. And both series were cool. So you had like the original Batman, the animated series, then you had the secondary Batman, and in that Batman, so like in the original Batman animated series, it did have Robin, who was Dick Grayson. But then in the second version of Batman, Dick Grayson actually becomes Nightwing in that one, if I'm not mistaken. And then you had a third iteration of Batman that came out on the WB, which was Batman Beyond. And a lot of people forget about Batman Beyond, but that was like Batman with a, super technical, type of suit and stuff like that. And that one was cool too. I don't know how many people got into Batman Beyond, but I remember Batman Beyond. That was a really, it was an interesting series. You had to kind of like be a real Batman fan, I think, to get into that one. Anyway, this Batman follows, I think, the second iteration of the Batman animated series, and this is a cool game. It's not the best game, but it's a cool one, and it was one that I was glad I was able to get. But to answer your question, this one did not only come with the case and artwork, but it did come with a manual. This one was complete. So was glad to pick this one up and add it to the collection from GameStop. So that was a complete copy there. And then another complete game that I got was Pokemon Coliseum. Now, this was a long shot. A lot of times when you order these like heavy hitting games like Pokemon Coliseum or Pokemon Gale of Darkness or Def Jam Fight for New York, there's always a chance that it's not going to come complete. There were a couple of heavy hitters that I ordered that did not come complete. For example, Xenogears didn't come complete. I think I got Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. That didn't come complete. That was for the Dreamcast. So there were a few that didn't come complete. And I kind of ordered some games almost knowing that they weren't going to be complete. But I just kind of wanted to experiment to see, okay, how many of these games that they're putting up here are actually going to be complete? So I was pleasantly surprised to see that Pokemon Coliseum did come complete. And it was in pretty good shape. This is actually a pretty good condition Pokemon Coliseum. And even the manual, when you look at the manual is in pretty decent shape. So I gotta say, I was pleasantly surprised that this copy of Pokemon Coliseum came complete in box. So some really just two, honestly, two out of the disc-based games that came in were complete. And like I said, that's less than 10%. So, I mean, I'm gonna say this. You'll definitely have more success getting complete in box games from the 6th generation. So that's GameCube, Xbox, and PlayStation 2. When it comes to PlayStation 1, Dreamcast, anything like any disc-based games from the 5th generation, it's a really real long shot. I don't think I've actually ever gotten a complete in box 5th generation game from GameStop that I ordered online. You can definitely get them in the store, but getting them online is tough. And I don't know if it's because they're hesitant to mail the jewel cases, because those are more delicate and those are easier to break. I don't know what the deal is with that, but I don't think I've ever ordered a 5th generation disc-based game from GameStop and it came complete in box. So all in all, these were two really solid pickups. These are going into the collection, and I was glad to add those two to the collection. And I've been on a little bit of a Pokemon kick. Not crazy. Like if a Pokemon game is available, if I see it on the website, I'm gonna go ahead and grab it. I'm not seeking out Pokemon games per se, but if they do come across my screen, I will go ahead and grab it. Now, I did kind of want to jump into some, I'm going to shove these to the side, and I kind of want to go over some pretty gnarly pickups that I got today. I walked into a GameStop, and they had some really cool original Xbox and Xbox 360 games. So we'll first take a look at a couple of the Xbox 360 games. So these first two were Need for Speed Most Wanted and Operation Darkness. So really stoked to run into these. Both of them were complete in box. And we know the 360 craze is over, right? So 360 had a massive run like last summer where there was just this crazy run up in the price for 360 games. And a lot of those games have come back down. Operation Darkness was one of those games that had a massive run up. I think this game peaked at around 250. Right now, it's back just under 100. I'm seeing this average, it sells for an average of 85, 90, maybe $100. I see a lot of listings for this one for $100. But all in all, two solid pickups on the Xbox 360. So I was stoked to find that in the store. And then they also had Panzer Dragoon Orta, as well as Ultimate Spider-Man. Again, both of these complete in box. This one actually had the registration card, so that was pretty dope. But yeah, a couple of pretty neat Xbox original games here that I was glad to find. You know, Panzer Dragoon was, Orta was definitely one that I had on my eye on for the original Xbox, but I didn't want to get it if it wasn't going to be complete. I'd actually tried ordering a copy of this during one of GameStop's buy two get ones. But of course, when I ordered it at that time, it wasn't complete. It was disc only. So here today, in store, I was able to locate both of these. Some really good finds there as well. And then also another set of original Xbox games that I really had my eye on. One of them I had purchased but had to return because it was just in really bad condition, but found it again, and that is the Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So these are a couple really cool like action adventure style games, I want to say. But they follow that classic late 90s, early 2000s like Buffy. You know, this was the era of like, you know, Buffy, the Vampire Slayer, Angel, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, like all those after school like coming of age type of shows, you know, that show you like the, you know, the transition from like junior and senior year in high school into the early college years. You know, a lot of those shows were that in the late 90s. And so this was really cool to see. But again, both of these complete as well and in really good condition. So was really stoked to find both of these games for the Xbox. This one is actually an exclusive, so pretty sick to find that there, but was glad to add these two into the small but mighty Xbox collection. And then the last but not least was this guy, Fatal Frame 2 Director's Cut. So, I mean, I'm not gonna be mad at that right there. Being able to run into this copy. This one did come with, I believe, the registration card. Yeah, so the registration card, the disc, the manual's not in too bad of a shape. Really good find here from GameStop. You know, all in all of these games ran me roughly. Whoa! So all of these games roughly ran me around 230. So 235 was where I was at for all of these. They were running some type of special, so I got 15 bucks off of the deal. And then because the total came up to above 250, I also got an additional 25 off. And then I had some points that I was able to use as well. So all in all, this actually came out to roughly around 200 bucks for all of these. And I'm not gonna lie, that's really not bad for the games that you're looking at here. I mean, Operation Darkness, Need for Speed Most Wanted, and, you know, Fatal Frame alone were already over 200. So to get the rest of these included in that was a really good deal. These are all games that I've really wanted to add to the collection, with the exception of Need for Speed Most Wanted, because I didn't realize until I got home that I already had this one. And then Ultimate Spider-Man, I also already have this one, but I have it on the GameCube. But all in all, some really solid pickups in store. Haven't had a really good in-store find in a few weeks, so this was great to add. And then again, just being able to get these GameCube games complete was also a really solid add. So gotta be honest, was a very very good day. It's been an okay week. There's more coming, so if you're interested in seeing what other games come in complete in box, I'll be sharing that as we go into the weekend. But let me know what you think about some of these finds here. Let me know if you've been able to take advantage of any of the promos on the website, and I will catch you in the next video. It's the Y2K Collector. Take it easy.